Great. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining this great webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who could make their presence in this amazing high-tech industry webinar. Hope you all are having a great day. Today, we have an opportunity to engage in a thought-provoking discussion. I, on behalf of AI Core Spot, welcome all our esteemed guest speakers, moderator, and all the pretty faces that makes up our lovely audience. Let me initiate with a humble introduction of myself and the company. My name is Nitin Naveen, and I'll be your host for the day. I'm working as Vice President of Innovation Strategy at AI Core Spot, and I bring with me an experience of around a couple of decades in consulting firms dealing in and around the emerging technologies. My colleagues Arvind and Naveen will be assisting me in keeping the today's event lively. Also, they will be stepping in to resolve some technical glitches if it comes. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to them for their hard work and dedication in making this event a great success. This webinar is intended to deliver the new age technological advancements in the current industry with a seamless experience. Speaking about the company Aircore Spot, we started a couple of years back, supported by our knowledge and innovation partner InfoVision and technology partner Digit7. AI CodeSpot aims to function as a comprehensive knowledge hub, offering valuable information and perspectives on a wide range of cutting edge technologies around Industry 4.0. It includes AI, ML, deep learning, robotics, IoT, edge computing, analytics, 5G, drone, edge AI, digital twin, AR, VR, cloud, and so on, with the objective of offering an in-depth exploration of all the sectors that involve technology. We introduce a different theme every month, and we have been progressing, gaining momentum. Our goal is to become the leading AI-driven community worldwide, where individuals with similar interests like you can contribute to mutual growth and success. We prioritize industry-backed webinars and hybrid events, ensuring that our knowledge base is built on a credible data provided by esteemed industry leaders, thought leaders, subject matter experts, and our trusted partners. Further, we nurture the content through a lot of various mechanisms like digital content, blogs, videos, podcasts, newsletters to shed light on this ever evolving industry. So, join us today for one of a kind webinar focused on digital transformation in the high tech industry. We'll cover a range of topics which include product discovery and innovation, change process and risks involved, emerging trends in AI and ML, ethical consideration, generative AI, online safety, zero trust architecture, and so on. Our expert panel will provide valuable insights and engage in a thought provoking discussion that you might not want to miss. And just to let you know, there are lots more in store for the next month with focus on different technologies like AI, ML, blockchain, IoT, AR, VR, digital twins, metaverse, ChatGPT, quantum computing, and so on. May I take this opportunity to further request you all to go through our website, which is aicorespot.io, for future updates. We'll be delighted if you could show your love for us via likes and shares on our social media handles. It will keep you all updated on everything what we propose to offer in the coming months to follow. Now, before we get started with the discussion, here are a few pocket-sized highlights to set up the tone for the intriguing learning and networking day. We'd like to introduce our community partners for today. It includes SAP, Signavio, InfoVision, Cisco, and Snap, who came together to make this webinar a success. We also want to give a big shout out to all our attendees who took the time to register and join us today. We know you have a lot on your plate, so it means to us that you are here to achieve your objectives and connect with one another. Ultimately, our goal as a platform is to help you gain valuable insights and build meaningful relationships. So if you walk away with even just a few innovative ideas or connections, we'll consider it a job well done. Now, let me hand over the stage to Ashish, who is the Chief Business Officer handling telecom, media, and technology domain at InfoVision. He's also the moderator for this panel discussion. Joining him today are four great leaders. Let me introduce yourself to you. First panel member is Lucas, who is Head of Innovation Office and Strategic Projects at SAP Signavio. Second panel member is Tarun, who is Senior Director of Engineering at Cisco. Our esteemed third panel member is Yudan, who is Head of Platform Integrity Engineering at Snap. And fourth panel member is Sandra, who is a consultant and veteran in high-tech space, served in various companies like Microsoft, Intel. Just one-liner disclaimer before we start. The views shared by the speakers are their personal ones, not related to any organization or wish to hurt anyone. So let's start the day. Over to you, Ashish, to begin this exciting panel discussion.
Nitin, thank you so much for setting up this and giving us an opportunity to come and talk to all of you and to our audiences in this. It's my privilege to host this panel. The speakers are great leaders coming across different organizations and spend years in their own respective domain. So I am very excited and looking forward for a very great conversation today, and I hope our audiences will enjoy this. Before I start the panel discussion, I want to request all the audiences to give your questions as much as you can so that you can get the best views from our speakers and learn from their experiences. So please keep posting your questions on the forum as and when you feel and you want to ask something, and we will ensure that we will try to cover all the questions as much as we can towards the end of the conversation. I think we all are going through a massive transformation when it comes to the technology, and every day we are reading one or other thing coming in, and high-tech industry is a leading industry when it comes to the adopting the technology areas, whether it is AI, ML, or it is Chat GPT, or it is generative AI, or it is security, zero trust. There are many things which are happening today. With that, I want to start with something which is innovation, and innovation is a key for driving the digital transformation in the industry. Sandra, with you, I want to start. What are your views about innovation in the industry, in the technology industry, and what you have learned and what you have experienced? You would like to share with the audiences.
Technology in itself is innovation, and one of the things as I reflect back over the last decade or so, companies, whether it's B2B and or B2C, was just grappling with the advent of social media, right? And how do you engage both from internal employees as well as your customer set externally? And then you had COVID. And I know I think there's stat from McKinsey that during COVID, all industries had to accelerate their digital transformation. I think they leapfrogged about 10 years, I think is what McKinsey highlighted in terms of the growth. And now you have generative AI, you're coming out of COVID. You thought you kind of started to pick up the digital transformation, and all of a sudden you have generative AI. And so if anything I always like to look back at history, and if history's teaching us is that technology is innovated at an accelerated pace, which requires businesses and organizations to think about nimble. Sometimes we can't see what new technology is going to come out tomorrow. We just saw Apple launch Vision Pro and how that's going to transform various industries. So if anything, what I have learned and I'm still trying to digest is innovation never stops. And the challenge that we have as individuals and leaders and as tech industries is how do you create a new culture that embraces innovation, flexibility, and constant change? We as human beings, by our very nature, like consistency. We were taught that as, when we're with your parents, you understand, we are always taught that your kids like consistency, humans like consistency. So not only kind of thinking about the infrastructure, how do you engage in all your business processes and adopting the innovation, also what type of leaders do we need to become to embrace the fast rate of innovation? And so that's kind of my current point of view and kind of struggling with. It is changing like we've never seen before, and it affects both business processes as well as leadership and who you want to be as a leader.
No, that's a great point. And innovation is a culture when it comes to driving innovation. And it's something which you cannot force, but you can create that culture and try to bring as many people in that culture, around that culture, so that everyone start thinking about. And to you, Lucas. You are a head of innovation office, strategic projects at SAP. And you are the best person also to tell us what the innovation mean and how do you create that culture of innovation across the organization?
Sure. And I want to second what you guys just said in terms of like the culture and innovation. But at the same time, I want to demystify it a little bit and be provocative. Because every time I talk about innovation, I say to the people I work with, please, let's not do innovation, right? I always compare it to a marathon. Everybody wants to say they have run a marathon, but everybody hates 6 months of training. And that's very much like innovation, right? So in the sense of what really is innovation, most of the time, if you are true to the definition, it's a step change. It's something that is profoundly different to what you've been doing. And so I say, leave that to the experts. And most of the time, I would not even consider myself in that realm, right? I say, let's make sure that we're adaptive, right? That we're fast on our feet and that we minimize the cost of change, right? And I think that is what I see now unfolding, is that leaders now realize that change will always maintain a core critical functionality of their leadership, right? Because you don't know where the world is going. But as you get more adaptive, you will be in a position to exploit or benefit from any such change. And one quip how to remember it is in a way that we always try to say, don't force people to make a hard change. Make change itself easy, which is incredibly hard, let me tell you, and then let them make the easy change. And so most of the time when I talk about culture and innovation, I try to reframe it. I want to tell people, look, what you've been told as the gold standard of innovation is a very painful process, and very often it doesn't even end well. What you really should go for is try to look at how can you minimize the cost of change and understand how to become more adaptive to the change that is happening no matter what. And then you can get a little bit of distance and not pretend, oh, we need this benevolent leader who tells us where to go with our products and walks over water, preferably in a black turtleneck, right? No, we can do it ourselves. And I think this is the most important thing about, in quote unquote, innovation. It's not a mystical thing. It is really dedication to de-risking, thinking about how we create the environment for easy change, and then, enjoy the part. And yeah, that's, I mean, I could go on, but I think that is what I always start with, that the most critical mind shift. It's not like something that for somebody else, everybody should join in, and it's really about being adaptive, right?
Thanks for great insights. And Zidwan, to you, I liked your one of the paraphrase here. Given the rapid change in the industry, most time we are building planes while flying. How can leaders stay focused on that? So it's a great topic. You would like to hear your views. Mute, Zidwan.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, as Sanjay and Lucas mentioned, that innovation is constant change, right? And from my point of view, when we solve the problem, I always encouraging my team to think about why we are solving the problem. So start why, right? So in that case, innovation in some sense is actually finding the most effective way to solve the problem. Be technology, or if we say, oh, AI can be applied to automate something, of course, that is great. But sometimes we probably don't even need to start with AI. We can start some simple process change, improve communication, start with some rule-based, start with something small to gain the early win, and then it is a step. Gradually, it's a gradual change, but the incremental change become a step change. So yeah, and for you say yes, we are building the plane while flying, or we are flying the plane while building. It is indeed very tricky because there are so many unknown things. There are always new upcoming online safety bill coming up, like digital service act. There will be other something similar like GDPR law coming up gradually. More and more such online safety bill or privacy bill will come up. So in that case, a lot of time in terms of my domain online safety, we are more focused on this fundamental building so that we are building to adapt to this constant change. But on the other hand, it's very hard for us to predict what will be the actual online safety bill coming up. But as long as we have a very strong technical foundation or a very nimble process, then all we do is kind of de-risk this upcoming change. So that is in terms of my area, a lot of time is related to the risk.
No, thank you so much. And Tarun, I know Cisco is one of the leading innovation companies when the name Cisco comes, and it's always fast speed. It's one of the most aggressive and fast speed organization, which we know about. Would love to hear your views. How you guys are looking at innovation, what best practices you are driving, and how you are fostering the culture of innovation in Cisco.
Thank you. Like we all see, the digital transformation is about changing fundamentally or rewiring the business or an organization, how it operates. So as technology moves, technology has become so much integrated into the business. Whenever a new shift in technology comes, it affects the business. So Cisco is known for not missing the market transitions. That's why Cisco grew. But over the last few years, Cisco has not been catching up on some of the market transformations which are moving that fast, say mostly in the cloud area. So what we are trying to do today is to catch up on some of the cloud changes and bring in some of the innovations we have done in networking area. Cisco is the prime company in innovation company in the networking area, and the network and the security is coming together these days, and it's about simplifying. As the technology matures, it gets simplified, and the more it gets matured, it gets integrated so that you don't see the technology complexity in front of you, right? That said, Cisco is focusing on some of the domains, and security is one of the transformation domain across the company in Cisco. And we've been paying a lot of attention on getting the market back on the security side, because very close to the core customers on the networking side, some thousands of customers Cisco has on the networking side. And as we see the digital transformation, especially after COVID, where people are moving and working remotely, applications have moved to the cloud, and the economy is also going through some of the jitters after COVID. There's a lot of demand put on the infrastructure. I'm saying networking infrastructure, fundamentally, which was built on what we call as MPLS, which force you to do some kind of hub and spoke architecture, where the traffic goes to data center, where most of the appliances or the security checks were done. Instead of that, now you can break out directly to the network, to the internet, and that exposes the security problem. So security is becoming paramount in most of the say retail companies, where if you are in Starbucks, you are using a broadband to go do the payment service directly. So security is getting very important in our core business area.
Sure. I know there was some my broadband snapped, but I'm back again. So sorry about it. So moving to the discussion from innovation as a culture and how every company is looking at today, AI is everywhere. AI is driving the enterprises to the different level, and then you have a generative AI coming in. That's a very interesting topic. And today, I was reading in the news in the morning, there is a bill which is getting passed in the House now on the AI. How do they institutionalize the whole AI as a topic? So which is becoming more and more relevant. And people are talking about whether AI is important or whether we should do, whether we should not, we don't require, and how do we really go about it? There is a Nobel Prize winner lady, which is, which she was talking about. She did AI, she introduced AI some 40 years back, but then she decided not to do it. So there are various, pros and cons about AI as a technology. So Lucas, from your point of view, what are your views about AI and how you are leveraging AI in your environment? How do you see AI really shaping the whole product development and innovation across? So would love to hear your views.
I guess it's less about what I think and what the rest of the world has decided what AI is. In a way, there is a mad scramble, and we haven't seen anything quite like it in a long time, right? Pick your poison, but a lot of influential people have called it the iPhone moment, right? Of AI, now large language models. And we don't know yet where we can create defendable moats for value extraction. Everybody is running after it, but in a weird way, it's a capability overhang. What do I mean by that? Normally, there's tons of things you want to do, and your product managers beg the developers to please release a new functionality, okay? Now, all of a sudden, we have this capability, and we don't really yet know how to use it. I mean, there's obvious ways, but the first most obvious way I would call the peacocking phase, right? Everybody shows their feathers and shows that they can integrate the chat, but the chat is like the first approximation of a feature. It's not really functionality that it helps the user. It is, in a way, showcasing I can execute, I can integrate technology. What we haven't figured out for most parts is in what way this technology overhang can be integrated in a way that we really get value out on a, let's say, company level. And then also on a bigger level, we don't even know yet what are the defensible modes. Will it be applications? Will it be, where will be the effects that create a competitive, innovative advantage that I can defend? And I would say, if you're ever faced with that kind of environment, the worst you can do is just stay back and hope it will work out, right? Like the ostrich that puts his head under the sand, which probably is just a fairy tale. But anyway, right? We know what I'm talking about. So what you can really do is, as things are moving and the entire world has decided that we're running at an incredible neck break speed or pace along lines of innovation, I think what you really can do is go to first principles. And what that means for us, or what I would recommend to everyone, is to really truly understand the value stream that you are engaged in with your customers. What are the real problems, the real jobs to be done that you are connected to, and map them out, not just from the vantage point of any singular product, but rather what is really the end-to-end story, why someone wants to work with your product, your services, like name it. And having a clear understanding of the value proposition and the entire end-to-end value flow, then you can really analyze what is potential impact, where do I have a right to play, and where can I leverage either an ecosystem, like my technology or whatever it is, right? The market tells us we shouldn't do everything. We should do the one thing that differentiates us the most. And I think AI is, in a way, and especially large language models, is a bit of an equalizer. We had almost firm constructed silos of value creation and modes, right? And now, because with language models, we see that a lot of domains can be connected that were hard to connect previously. Everybody starts out not at zero, but they start out at a fairer, let's say, playing field. So for me, just recapping it, this is the time not to stand back, to think about value creation end to end, to analyze what are the real problems, not just the service I'm rendering, but because most of the times what companies are selling and what people are paying for is not the same, right? And then thinking from that vantage point how to create and capture value and not just run with the peacocking of, okay, we need some sort of a prompt chat because that's the cool thing. That's how I see in a nutshell what is currently happening. I hope that makes sense, because it's a big topic, right? It's not easy to condense it in short amount of time.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And while Zidwan, you have a view about the online safety, while the AI is being implemented, and from the safety standpoint, and we will come back to some of the AI examples which Sandra will share. But from online safety standpoint, when the AI is implemented, what are your views and what you would like to share with the
Sure. Yeah, I think some of the view, of course, is already shared across the internet. So like they slow down the AI, machine learning can have both positive and negative effect on online safety. In terms of positive side, I see many companies, including Snap, my company, have used it to moderate the harmful content online. So including the most recent, this transformer model, machine learning model, we have used it to use this model for our content moderation, to take all this input, including text, voice, image, and video. So those are very positive impact. But on the other hand, this generative AI actually also created a lot of challenge. Like it brings a lot of generated content. Sometimes it is very hard for us to tell whether it's artificial generated versus realistic information. So from that point of view, there are multiple concerns on online safety, including privacy, and security. From online safety point of view, I think I have kind of observed some of this, for example, which is, I think is well known. They were already knew, say, oh, this generative AI created voice scan and also video scam, kind of fake other people. And there are some kind of scam like Norman scam or Pick Butcher scam, kind of introduce people to this fake investment app and then cheating money out of people. So those are more of my first concern. In some sense, there will be I hope there will be more and more governance coming up. For example, even say, oh, forcing some of the app, say if this is generated content, maybe having some kind of watermark so that people can use this information to make a judgment.
No, that's a great point. And coming to Tarun, you are the best person to tell us how are you, while AI is implementing, there are safety concerns. How are you putting the zero trust architecture and what are you guys doing in that area? Because that will ensure that whatever transformation, innovation is happening, it is secured. You're on mute, Tarun.
I'm fine then. But yeah, so zero trust architecture is a way to rethink how you provide the secure access or the remote secure access to applications, data, services based on some of the cloud defined access control. Now, when the AI comes in, it's disruptive, like some of you have mentioned. And there is a good side of the AI and there's a bad side of the AIs. In the security area, we are chasing the bad guys. and now the bad guys also have these tools. So how does AI help the good guys and also disrupt us, because now all these tool chains are also available with bad guys, right? So that's one of the concern the security industry has right now, is how to moderate AI in that space. Coming to your ZTNA side of things, ZTNA is a rethink of an architecture which simplifies, like I mentioned, how you provide the access, and typically it's broken down in three steps. So at the user or device or workload, you identify the context of who is asking for what resource. Based on that, we figure out for each session of that request, provide them the access policy. So if a user is in, say, finance, and he or she is asking an access to an engineering access, that should not be allowed. But when ZTNA goes one step forward, it does not even show the potential of an engineering repo to a finance person, because that's not in their domain. And vice versa, an engineering would not get access to, say, some SAP application related to finance, or a sales application. So they won't even see that as a profile. So ZTNA gives you the least privilege access. So many of our products, and in the industry, many of the products are undergoing this re-architecture or the transformation. Same problems, but solving it a bit differently. So AI doesn't directly come into the picture at this point, but AI is so fundamental that it's going to disrupt us, because now, like I said, the bad guys will have those tools. So we'll have to rethink how effectively we can change our game plan to circumvent some of those challenges. So it's still an exploration right now. I don't think we have the full solution to
Yes.
this. Right?
No, that's very fair. And there are the complexities which are getting further added. So AI is one, but the IoT devices are also as another element which is also adding to the complexity of the whole security architecture, right? Because there is so much of communication, and devices are coming to your inside your network. So there is a you may be aware, but there is a new technology which in fact we also have at InfoVision, is first packet authentication. So any TCP/IP packet, when it gets generated, we are assigning a token. So when it reaches to your network, before entering into the network, it matches with the identity. And if in case identity is matched, then the person will be allowed to go into the finance app or a respective app where the privilege has been given. Otherwise, the packet will be dropped at the network itself. So the first packet authentication before even the firewall comes into the picture. So those are the things also which we are doing today in the industry, so that we are providing a very tight zero trust architecture to the organization. Yeah. No, that's great. And Sandra, to you, we would love to hear some of the examples. And you have worked in many roles, and especially in the marketing area and the EdTech area. What are the different examples which you would like to share with the audiences today?
Yeah, and I think it's important to be grounded, and I think Lucas said this and used the reference point of the iPhone and how quickly it's being adopted. And I just want to share some stats, and I apologize, this is very US centric. So for those that are outside the United States, I apologize, I don't have international numbers, but Harris poll came out. So what's staggering, it started to kind of roll out generative AI the end of last year, early this year. 62%, this is all consumers, right? US population, 62% are familiar with generative AI. 23% have started to use applications, various tools, whether it's ChatGPT, DALL-E, there's many others out there. Over 60% have said they have not used it and do not plan to use it. 84% believe that companies, and I think this is going back to Tarun's kind of point of view of like the good and the bad, will plan to abuse the tool. and 64% don't trust it. And this is like the first time that we're seeing consumers say, we want our government to be actively involved in creating AI applications. So from an industry, when you were talking about ad tech and sports media, I was just talking to the sports media side of the house, and I said it's important to kind of dissect, like, how can you use the tools for good, to kind of Tarun's point, because there's a lot of value in terms of automation and productivity. And if you're thinking about like content creation and the time that it takes to, let's say, NBA finals ended, I'm a big Warriors fan, I love Steph Curry, and trying to pull together all the 3-point shots that he's had in his entire life, because you're trying to do a storyline, that would probably take you 2 to 3 weeks. You can do that now in milliseconds. And so you think about the automation to tell compelling stories so that you can engage with your audience is pretty impressive. Or the notion of, it doesn't matter what type of athlete you are, but we all know like athletes get hurt and injured. The ability to access these continents of data and leveraging machine learning to apply to it, and minimizing ACL injuries, which oftentimes can cost an athlete's life. I mean, they've been training the entire time, and taking the access of over 200 joints, which we've never been able to do. Think about third-party data in terms of weather, elevation, the tone of the audience, and putting all of this together to say, you know what? You should take the following actions in terms of whatever type of athlete you are, to make adjustments so that your risk is reduced significantly. And so those are things that I think is pretty admirable in terms of technology for good. And then you start to think about, I'm using sports because I just came from the conference, but betting. What is the industry going to do around betting? And there was a gentleman that took 3 different AI applications, put it together, created his own app. And he said, I'm going to have the machine learning model place the bet and see how well it does versus my own, intellect. And it was 99% accurate. And it ended up winning like, what is it, $7,000. I think, he put a spread and, a max. So the betting industry, along with trading, if you're financial stock trading, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do with these AI applications that could pretty much be more accurate than the human being? And so is that, I don't know, Tarun, what your point of view is. I don't know if that's technology for good or technology for bad. Like, we want people to make money, but it's not really using your own intelligence. So I think every industry, and to Lucas's point, I think you mentioned this, is that you have to dissect the business process and figure out where are you going to use the tools. The ad industry, which I thought was really interesting, WPP, if you're not familiar with it, is one of the largest holding advertising firms in the world. They decided to partner with NVIDIA to reimagine what the ad industry is going to look like. And I thought that was a great strategic partnership, because in the past, the ad industry ignored digital transformation, ignored social media. And I think they learned their lesson. So going back to like, you learned your lesson, like, let's get ahead of it. But I would never imagine NVIDIA and WPP working together to figure out, how is generative AI going to change the entire work stream? And what does the new world look like? And I think every single industry is going to be affected by it. And I liked Lucas's point of view is change is constant. And how do you make it a little bit more digestible from a step change? And right now, for some people, like, the step change is like, just try it. Like, if the fact that only 23% have used generative AI, like, it's going to affect college applications. Like, just try it and understand how the college applications are going to change. So you don't have to be a professional at work. You can be a consumer and think about, I saw this application, which is amazing. You scan your refrigerator. It tells you everything that you have and will provide suggestions on what recipes you can make. So if within and you can put I want a recipe and I want to be able to do it in 10 minutes. That's a game changer for working parents. Like, you don't have to go to the grocery store. Time is precious. And so there are applications for both consumer and businesses. And I would say we should change the stat from 23% and increase it, because it's going to affect job losses. It's going to create new jobs. It's, to Tarun's point, privacy and security in so many different ways. And then the last thing is I would put the challenge to all the tech industries is thinking about sustainability, because we know it, with generative AI, it draws more energy in the next generation. And it's our responsibility as leaders to put that at the forefront. We have to leave them behind how we inherited Mother Earth. And so that's a conversation that should be equally important as security and privacy is. What are we doing about sustainability and the energy that it's consuming?
Very, very good points, and really good inputs. So, Lucas, what will not change? There are so many changes. Well, changes are happening. What will not change as per you?
Man, there's a couple of ways to answer that. I think the interesting thing is everybody asks about what will change. And I would argue most businesses should analyze and understand what will not change, because that is really a more interesting question, right? So what will never change is people want better products at a higher quality at a lower price faster, right? These are kind of things that the fixed points of the value creation. So what will not change is maybe the fixed points of where you can extract the value and have a right to win as a business. The other thing that will not change is that as everything innovation comes up with more compelling challenges to us, we need to cover all our bases. So what we're trying to do is not prepare for one change and make sure, hey, we have now one AI lab. And we're happy that all the smart kids are in one room looking after AI, but rather we want to make sure that we enable the entire organization. So thinking about how do we create structures that are sustainable, maybe not in the same way as sustainability was just mentioned, but sustainable for an organization to carry on the value creation and the innovation. And for us, that means being very cognizant about incentive structures and also making sure that we always look at how what we're doing. So the most important thing to work in a world of change is reflective about like your own like way how you work, creating more feedback loops, being closer to the customer, look at the blind spots, look at all of the different risk criteria that you're facing, right? Desirability, feasibility, viability, all the factors that are out there to get you, and make it a collaborative effort, because the biggest change that is mostly needed is not the technology change, but the change in the organization, which really needs a very detailed and meticulous analysis of the incentive structures, because that's in the end what moves the big mountains, right? It's not the technology, it's the incentive structures and the organization that supports it.
Great points. And Jidwan, to you, I know there is you talked about the online safety earlier, but what is the risk of LLM towards online safety, and how you maintain the transparency and things like that? So you would like to share with the team.
Okay. So the links are large language model toward online safety. I think I mentioned some before. Definitely there will be a lot of misinformation circulated, given that there will be a lot of generated content, and also as Tyler mentioned, not only we are using this technology to fight the bad actors are also using this technology in some way. We couldn't even predict how they are going to use this technology to attack the system. So in that case, I think it is a cat and mouse game in some sense. And so the misinformation definitely is one thing we are worried about. And then there's also privacy concern and fairness concern, given we are using large set of data to train this large language model. So what are these data sets? Are they representative? In some sense, it's not, right? And even with, say, ChatGPT, for example, most of the language they train is using English language. And if we talk about voice recognition, for example, I have accent. Likely, my accent may not be used to train for voice recognition. So there will be this selection bias and fairness. So those are some kind of risk. Is say, oh, how AI represent the world, and then also. So that is one thing. The second thing, of course, I mentioned misinformation. How do we tell when most of the time, if we ask ChatGPT or some other chat box, most of the time they gave us fairly convincing answer, but even it's once in 1,000, they gave us wrong answer. That might kind of trick us, say, oh, we just trust them. So maybe there's some kind of, even in terms of not technology side, even human judgment side, should we have become more critical thinking, having some kind of zero trust model, always having some human being in the loop to verify this output. In some sense, we ourselves need to be that human being to apply such judgment.
Yeah, no, great points. And I know we are talking about the online safety and online security, but Tarun, there are many devices which are deploying on edge today, right? So while we are talking about the online part of it, but there is a tremendous action happening in the industry, especially around 5G and private networks which are getting deployed. So it becomes very important, and IoT devices are being deployed across, and there are billions of IoT devices which are getting connected now across. Everything is now going to be censored in the field. So how you are helping the secure edge, which is your SASE architecture, and how you guys are providing that security.
Yeah, so on the edge is really an optimization where you provide equivalent services closer to you. It's like Amazon delivering near your home so you can pick it up from the 7-Eleven store rather than coming to your home. So it's an optimization for various industries like oil rigs, where they do not have a full internet access all the time. They can work in an offline mode on the edge, and once the internet service is available, sometimes it's through satellite, and then that data can be processed later. So that those are a little bit of optimization side. Now on the SASE side is a really, again, there are complexity in enterprise world where there was a networking set of tools and a network centric thinking, and now security thinking cannot be set aside. So now this thinking is merging, security thinking and the networking thinking. That's where the SASE comes from. So many of the enterprise vendors are bringing the security and the networking teams and products together. And that rethink includes ZTNA, few other aspects of security and the traditional networking side. So you have a single portfolio of a product where you can solve both the networking problem, access related problem, as well as security related problem bit seamlessly. You talked a little bit about 5G. 5G adoption is growing, especially in some of the retail side of things, where 5G is usually used as failover point. You have a broadband connection, and then a failover could happen through a 5G. Now 5G could become the main primary link as well. So some of the companies may end up using it. Some use cases probably make it primary, but 5G comes with some inherent security aspects, like things like slicing and all that. That's still a little bit of emerging technology with respect to security. Few companies have started investing into 5G and security, but the same principles like ZTNA, SASE are getting implemented because these are the architectural rethink on the edge. I think that kind of summarizes my thought on your question.
Thank you so much, Anu. This is really helpful. And moving to some questions which audience have shared. And I know, Lucas, you have reposted one of the question and said you are happy to follow up on this question, but I would love all the speakers to talk about it, which is the original question is how can collaborative and partnerships with startups, academia, and other industry contribute to successful digital transformation in high-tech sector. And, something which are with respect to incentives, org, GTM. So maybe you want to start this, and then I'll have other speakers also talk about it.
I think Lucas. I can speak to it just as an example, but I've actively been
Please go ahead.
involved. So I have been part of the World Economic Forum, in which it brings both the private and public sector. And I think they do this extremely well with the intention of bringing, there's also all conversations around diversity of thought. And diversity of thought is as inclusive of bringing different backgrounds. And so I was fortunate to be part of the VR/AR forum within the World Economic Forum, and you had the academia, you had startups, you had large corporations, and coming together and saying, well, what's required to move this industry forward? And then you have people from all over the world. And I thought it was really interesting. One of the things which Apple figured out was, the one headset doesn't fit all. You've got to think about, we all have different shapes and sizes of our heads. We are all little kids, we're all adults. So Apple actually became, launched something that's flexible and adjusts for everybody. And then you have somebody, the doctor in one of the Berkeley, talking about being so sensitive in terms of using these devices for kids, because you're still maturing and evolving and the eyes haven't matured, and we don't know what the impact of it's going to be. And so I would say there are forums and there are industry organizations that drive towards, IEEE, that bring all entities together to have conversations, making sure that we do what's right, tackle some of the hard problems, as well as create standards in the industry. And so I would say there are functions that help catalyze the conversations across all these industries, which is much needed. And I would say generative AI is equally important, having startups, academia, and large corporations kind of seek to talk and also drive standards and policies and privacies together.
No, I think very good points. Lucas, you have some thoughts on this?
So for us, when we try to partner with startups and academia, we try to be open-minded in a way that we see it not as the world is out to serve us, but rather we try to engage and see what they can provide, right? So we're in a way looking at what is on offer and then try to create an environment that most of the big processes of big corporations get out of the way. So it's less about having a fixed game plan and more about creating the environment where everybody can focus on the job that they're doing best. And then also establishing a long-lasting relationship. I think those are the components for us that have proven to be really important and sustainable in a way.
Zidwan, you have some thoughts on this? You're on mute.
For online safety, definitely there have been a lot of collaboration and partnership with startup, academia, and industry company. For example, there's a lot of child safety related problems circulating online. And in some sense, like for example, for image detection, there is a technology called photo DNA. In some sense, those ideas are simple. It's basically perceptual hash. But a lot of collaboration is needed because what is valuable is the database. So that means everyone needs to contribute to the database. So from this point of view, it is not about the algorithm itself. It's more about the data itself, sharing the data, and then everyone can take this data, compute whether it is a match, so that we can all jointly stop the distribution of this harmful content. So from this point of view, online safety, I do think there are huge opportunities to continue such a way to collaborate and then stop this bad content from distributing. So that is one thing on content side. On the other hand, even on the bad actor side, they are typically, of course, there are individual bad actors, but typically there are some group of bad actors. So in that case, similar sharing can also happen in different platforms. For example, someone might do this marketing on YouTube or some other channel, broadcasting it, and then doing some kind of private transaction in other platform using, if it needs finance, then maybe Venmo or PayPal. So all this kind of signal potential can also be shared so that we can start the bad actor from upstream.
Tarun, your views?
Yeah, trying to build up on what Zaidan just talked about data, right? So I want to look at AI through the prism of data. We've heard that data is the new oil. AI is really about extracting value from the data. One big change happened as part of generative AI is we no longer just read the voluminous data. Data is everywhere in different formats. We also have the ability to generate the data, right? That's the generative AI side of things, which is equal to the CRISPR stuff when the genome was defined. Now the CRISPR can also edit the gene. So it's actually much more worrisome part than the AI or the bad AI part. But what I wanted to talk about this is if you look from a data perspective and the partnership perspective, I think there has to be, in my opinion, there has to be more work on defining some policies around the data. Right now, companies and the countries are figuring out what the privacy of the data is and how do you find whether this data is generative. Like if your kids are in college or school, the teachers are catching up to Chat GPT and saying, kids, don't give me essays generated by Chat GPT, and there are detection programs where they can detect, right? So that said, I think the partnership is still evolving around what ecosystem one needs to build around moderating the data and who has the access, and if the fact that the data is generated, how do you sniff that this data is actually generated? When I say data, it could be an image, could be a video, could be a fake thing, right? So all of these are in the possibility realms of possibility now. From a partnership perspective, I think there is work there to define policies and regulations around that, which I think is a little bit behind. From a technology perspective, I don't think people will partner because everybody would like to differentiate. Whether now Microsoft has a leg up now over Google, they're going to flaunt it, right? So there's very hard choice that they would partner with Apple or Google on AI, and not possible. So they will differentiate. But I think there has to be some governance around the data because AI is nothing but getting the value from the data. So that's how I connect. Data is very important in this whole picture.
Thank you so much. And I know we'll take a last question from this from the audiences. And Sandra, you talked about gaming. You also talked about AR, VR, XR. But to make AR, VR, XR more mainstream, what are the key challenges to overcome? On mute.
Okay, sorry. The navigation bar went around. First, well, I applaud Apple for Vision Pro. They addressed bringing the hybrid of the real world and virtual world together. The price point has to come down. It is going to amplify the digital divide, the haves and have-nots, and so a 3,000 plus price point has to come down. One. Two, we all know how developers work. I'm assuming any hardware manufacturers working closely in software work closely with developers, but developers also need to see demand both on the business, enterprise, and consumer side. So the question will be, how many people are going to start to deploy this, and the incentives for developers to create applications. That's what we saw in terms of the app marketplace was amazing. There was a few apps that started the revolution, and then all these new industries were created. And the supply was there in terms of users. And so I would say the same thing will need to happen is At what point are we going to get to a tipping point where you see developers kind of create various applications? You saw Snippet. I highly suggest everybody kind of take a look at the Apple vision in terms of different types of applications. How we're going to be doing these type of webcast is going to be transformative. But I would say those applications are just not enough to make it mainstream. They did address I still think it's a change behavior. I do a lot of analysis in terms of behavioral design. For a human to put on something in their head, I think is still also a big challenge. And so while they've done a great job in terms of modularity, I believe it's going to be a hurdle kind of to change behavior. The phone is just like creating a piece of paper and having a piece of pen. It's kind of a similar, behavior. We all wear watches, so no different. Putting a headset, we don't all wear glasses. And so I think that's going to be a challenge. So early start, every technology has a very similar history. Remember the big mainframes, and now this is our computer. It's going to take some time, but I would say the biggest thing that I get concerned about is price point and accessibility for all. We can't continue to amplify the digital divide because then our world will never be equal. And so we have to think about affordability for all types of individuals.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But great points. And in fact, when we were talking last time, I was saying, start with the, with the web AR or augmented AR, which is in your hand.
Yes.
You can initiate the session from your phone, just scan the barcode, and you have a complete immersive experience coming in. And then you go to the next level of VR and then the XR. So those are the things which are, because first you need to create the adoption. You need to bridge that divide which you are talking about, right? I should feel that I can do AR by sitting here. I can buy a phone by sitting here from the store and taking the phone in my hand and match whether the phone I like it, how I'm using it, color I match. This is what the convenience today we are providing to the consumer, right? And that's the innovation in the AR space which we are doing. So in fact, we have, as at Infovision, we have done a lot of work, and we have built these technologies where we are making it convenient for enterprise to implement and adopt here. So yeah, so I think but great point. So any other speaker you guys have views on this? Lucas, Tarun, Jidwan?
The gaming industry in particular, or AR, VR?
Yeah, whether it's a gaming industry or any industry, how the adoption, what are the challenges?
I think it's a precautionary tale in a sense that, especially for gaming, the things that cost a lot of money, like asset creation, are now the things that are under the biggest disruption, right, through AI. So I think the thing that I would take away is we're really bad at predicting what kind of change will affect us. So the hardest part for anybody is to bet on one business model and keep rolling with it. I think the ultimate getaway message there is adaptability is key. And for especially for gaming and AI, what's happening there is essentially what has been created over 20 years in terms of the value stream and the creation has been upended within a couple of months. And there's no reason to believe that this couldn't happen to any other industry as well. So I think that's what I would come back to, because it really reinforces the point why we're here today. How do we prepare for a future where it's really hard to estimate what will happen or to predict what will happen, right?
Jidwan?
Yeah. For gaming industry, I think what Luke has mentioned is sort of, true. I don't have any additional input at this moment.
Sure, no worry. And Tarun, you have points on this?
Yeah, from my perspective, the way Apple specifically brought it as a spatial computing platform, so it's basically changing an interface. So I am not as as much more hyped on this. I see it as an improvement in the user interaction, the physical world and the virtual world, and it'll open up new interactive applications outside the gaming world, even in medicine, in manufacturing, and bunch of things. So it'll simplify our life. But in the human computing parlance, the big change was the von Neumann architecture of stored procedure computing. Then it changed to a little bit more of GPU based stuff, which NVIDIA pioneered. And then most of the changes in computing has been mostly in improving the algorithms or improving the interface. So I put them into these 4 class boxes of changes since the computing started. Is the von Neumann stored procedure, which I think we still use that architecture. The NVIDIA way of doing things, a little bit accelerating computing, doing things differently, enabling AI. And the third is maybe the improvement of algorithms in UI. So I put them into that bucket. I'm not as putting them as fundamental change. It's an improvement, but it's in that third bucket of change, in my opinion.
No, thank you so much. I think those are the great points. With this, Nitin, I'll hand it over to you, for summarizing and final words.
Thank you, Ashish, and thanks to all the panel members. It was a great discussion. I was deeply absorbed in all these things, but thanks a lot for bringing all the points. We extend our gratitude to all of you, the attendees who participated in this forum, which provided a platform for knowledge enrichment. As our panel members were exceptional, we appreciate their willingness to come together as well and share their valuable insights. Further, if you feel or miss something and have a wish to look back at the session, let me inform you that today's event was broadcasted on the YouTube page of our company, so you all can see the recording anytime. And if you are looking out for recent technological updates and advancements, log on to our websites and social media channels. We'll be sharing lots of knowledge sharing topics, details, announcements of next events, and much more, which will help you register and attend the same. Before we pull the curtains on, we'd like to thank Infovision, who is our knowledge and innovation partner, and Digit7, which is our technology partner. To understand more in depth and connect with them, all of you can go through their website, which is infovision.com, and stay abreast with the technological advancements. Further, there are lots more in store for this year with a focus on a lot of emerging industries like banking, financial, insurance, telecom, retail, healthcare, supply chain, manufacturing, and so on. So I request all of you to keep connected with us and enjoy the learning. It was a pleasure bringing this session to you, and we hope that you all enjoyed it as much as we did. We look forward to having more sessions with you. Take care and have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, all the speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.